We'll start off with, please come on in, as in when we take your names. Mr. Pardipta Patro, Head of Cybersecurity and IT Platform RPG. A big round of applause.
All right.
Sir, what would your answer be?
Good afternoon. So, question is what is in life, you will say?
So the topic revolves around you overcoming the hurdles in manufacturing industry. But our question is, what is the number one skill that is required to overcome the hurdles of life, according to you? Just one number one skill.
I thought might be a hurdle for cybersecurity, but okay, life is yours, you said.
Life.
So definitely it is that ownership you have to take in life. That is the most important thing. You can get out of this all hurdle, whatever it is come across to you.
Fantastic answer.
Ownership.
Fantastic answer, Mr.
Thank
Patro. Absolutely brilliant. Our next leader is Mr. Udit Pahwa, the head IT Huhtamaki.
All right.
Mr. Pahwa, what would your answer be? We've started off with ownership.
Automotive.
I think my mantra in life, if you want to succeed, is feel the pain of others and smile, and if you can make their life comfortable, you are set.
My God, I've got the exact opposite. I look at other people's aura, I'm like, okay, fine, I'm better. But this is a better way of being. Fantastic answer, Mr. Udit. Our next leader is Mr. Nitin, Bhatia, Cloud and Software Sales Lead, India, Dell Technologies. A big round of applause for Mr. Bhatia.
Hey, welcome guys, come.
Mr. Bhatia, what would your answer be from ownership to what? Empathizing and sympathizing with people to?
Being humble. I think being humble to every person you meet. Your life is a sale.
Fantastic. Brilliant answer, Mr. Bhatia. Absolutely amazing. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, the man with the toughest task, Mr. Rajgopal Nayak, the moderator of the session, Chief Technology Officer, Metro Brands Limited.
All right.
Sir, something around tough love.
Something unique.
No.
I think the single most important skill is being able to attend events in the day while keeping your boss happy, and in the evening, keeping your spouse happy.
Good thing I've got the pen and paper, dude. Fantastic answers, leaders. Stage is all yours. Thank you so much.
Very good afternoon to all the members of the panel and all the members of the audience. Thank you for making time and coming back from your speed networking and coffee drinking or tea drinking sessions. So we are here today to discuss a very important and relevant point, and it has been relevant for time immemorial and will continue to be in this age of agile development. That is in the area of overcoming manufacturing cybersecurity hurdles. Now, talking of cybersecurity in the IT/OT space, I mean, this came into limelight all the way back in 2010 with the first Stuxnet incident, in Iran, wherein when we talk of edge computing and the hurdles over there in the previous session, one recalls a particular example that was given of what was deemed as poisoning of data. The Stuxnet is a prime example of there, wherein the centrifuges that were used by the Iranian nuclear agency for separating uranium isotopes, the sensor, the transducers were hacked such that the SCADA system was showing that things are fine, while the speed at which they were operating was much lower or much above, randomly, of course, and causing the whole nuclear program to deteriorate. Now, that being said, a lot has moved in the area of cybersecurity in IT/OT, but come 2022 with the Ukraine war, you have examples of kill disk and black energy, wherein the power plants in power utilities in Kyiv were specifically targeted and attacked. There is also a rumor going around with respect to the September 12th, 2021 incident in Mumbai where there was a power outages, right, which has all the hallmarks of a cyber incident, right, although I'm not too sure how much is there in the public domain. Right? That being said, I have with me my power panel of all battle-hardened veterans, right, and who are here to cover the topic with us. Let me start with the first question, and I direct this to you, Pradipta.
Thank you.
Right? What are your views on increased security threats brought about by the IT-OT conversion that we see in manufacturing?
Thank you so much for highlighting this. But today, the IT and OT no more a different island. It is altogether is converged already, and a lot of places like we move our OT, all sensors, all data getting into the cloud, or might be the edge computing. What our earlier panelists already highlighted. A lot of things are happening around, and data have been exchanged from OT environment to IT and getting into the cloud. Completely, the transition is happening. The way the digital transformation is happening across industry. It is not only for the manufacturing, at the BFSI or tech, any pharmaceutical. Everywhere those data is moving from the OT, moving to IT, moving to the cloud. All those are in the digital transformation already in place, and certainly the journey has been already started. So the point is now the cybersecurity, which, when, where, and how we have to protect our critical assets. The critical infrastructure and manufacturing industry talk about, I think Mr. Raj has already highlighted the Iranian, the Stuxnet kind of scenarios, cyber attacks. Today, if you look into the example of like Colonial Pipeline, where in USA, like most of around 17,000 gas pumps or gas stations been stopped for a certain time. And taken some example in Mumbai, it has happened. Taiwan Electricity Board, it has been distributions are being stopped for a certain time. So it is happening everywhere. Today, if you look into that industries, 70% of industries that is compromised or breached some other way, either data breach or some ransomware attacks, it is happening. Okay, today we talk about like last 48 hours, one of that POC banks has been breached certain customer data. So a lot of things are happening around. So the cybersecurity is the key, and in that point, the OT and IT definitely give one live example of it. Let's say one of the European company or European countries having some kind of water supply to their household, where the sulfur contained sulfur hydroxide, that kind of parameter has been changed from the normal to 10x. Imagine that how it has happened through your team Weber kind of scenario. It has been compromised. Think about it, could have been impacted to lack of users or million of users or subscribers. So that is the crucial and criticality of that OT, or the way we can use or leverage the systems or digitization, the way it is happening. The threats are going, and it is not only for that OT environment or isolated island. It is converged, and we need to protect it end to end. Not only for some isolate or giving the certain isolated solutions to that particular problems. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Pradipta. I redirect this question now to Nitin, right? Nitin, with respect to IT-OT conversion and the increased security threats that are there, what are your views on the same?
So I think more than my views, I'll put in what Dell thinks about each of their building up of devices. And I think we are working tirelessly to make sure that each of your devices has been protected from cybersecurity. If you look at, and I will second the thoughts of what Pradipta was talking about, your data is everywhere. And more importantly, giving you information is the key of managing each of these devices. People don't know that your devices have been compromised for months along. And after that, why did it occur? Because there would be one of the vulnerabilities which was exposed, but there are many others that have been exposed onto those edge devices. And our journey towards edge to go to cloud and protecting your data where it resides is a key focus on building devices to solutions that we provide to the industry today.
Thanks, Nitin. And last but not the least, your views on the same, Udit.
Yeah. So I think both these gentlemen have covered the points, but I would like to take a step back and look at what causes this. why is this today so much of a big point? And traditionally in India, the manufacturing plants have been built ages ago. While we have new ones coming, you still have ages ago. And in India, we tend to stretch the asset, sweat the asset beyond its life. So you have aged machines as well, getting replaced with new machines. We are in a connected world right now, smart, connected, and all those jargons. What is happening is the infrastructure which was built over a legacy of time in the last decades is now housing the new machines which are smart, connected, and all those words, right? So this is giving rise to the increased breaches or the, we have a new term called OT, which is operations technology. It's nothing but putting networking for the machines. You have networking traditionally in your office, and you now have networking on the plant. Converging these two together is what is giving rise to the cybersecurity issues that we have, and that's what we need to tackle. So one of the main reasons we face hurdles today is because we have aged infrastructure, which is getting new machines which are not compatible. If I have to use the word compatible, they're not compatible to the network setups that we are running in our aged plants or locations.
Let me hold you to that, Udit. So the next question is also to you with respect to what are the levels of risks and the types of risks that you see in smart factories today.
So I think both of them had he outlined the contamination of water,
SO2.
Yes, I'm not able to recollect, but there was about a couple of years ago somewhere in Europe. They had hacked into the hotel system and locked all the guests and demanded ransom. Right. So you will hear, you just have to search the internet for any kind of such instances, and you will get plenty of them which will outline dire consequences. Again, if you take a step back and see why this is happening, you will again come back to words like smart, connected, etc. So when we are connecting these smart devices, you need to be particularly careful to segregate them from your mainstream work. Give them. So it's like, we are experiencing a boom today in our road infrastructure. You have the Golden Quadrilateral, you got the expressways coming up, etc. Have you ever noticed that along with the expressways that they build, they are also building 2 service lane roads on the side? Now, why is that? That is because to segregate the local traffic which moves from one small town, village to another, while the through traffic goes to the expressway. This is an example which you can correlate with the IT and OT. Build separate highways with interconnections or joins for them to meet at a supervised area. That is where the IT-OT converges and we have safety. If you let the bullock cart go on Mumbai-Pune expressway, you know what will happen, right?
I think that was very apt, Udit. Now, so you covered a few items over here. For example, one really can't air gap in this day and age your IT and OT infrastructure. That is a figment of the past, right? Or unless you are in extremely specialized known vulnerability issues like a nuclear reactor and things of that nature, where it might be mandated to have that particular gap in place. The second thing is that if you Google it, there are weekly list of, it's basically called This Week in Ransomware, right? And that is something you can see the plethora of attacks that are happening on a systematic basis, week on week, gets articulated over there. Now, given these realities of the day and age today, Pradipta, my question to you is, how should organizations go about building cybersecurity controls in their smart factories, both in terms of greenfield, right, and retrofit, which tends to be a majority of the cases these days?
Yeah, great. This is every cybersecurity start from you have identity and access management. What is that identity access management? Today we talk about more of the zero trust. Okay, this is built upon like, your identity, access management. The four point is here. First, you have to identify your critical assets. Second, authentication, how we can authenticate those to access those critical assets. Third is your authorizations. We have to have your duty of segregations of that. The way the banks is happening, one role will be assigned to certain people, other role will be assigned to some other people, right? To have certain like, access. So the fourth point is you have the audit and accounting. So that whatever you do the access, that should be audited and that should be accounting. So those are the four parameters, if you can say IEEE. So this is where it can start off, and then you can build your control around. It is not that control is the web, not in the edge. The way we are talking about the edge computing, everything starts from there in the edge or your endpoints. So you have to have your system into it. The way we can talk about EDR, let's say talk about EDR today, XDR today, MDR. So those are the things you have to be placed into your system so that it give you the intelligence. That's the reason it starts from the endpoint. Still you're getting into the web, right? In the web, then in web you should have your secure web gateway kind of scenario, or you have the CASB if you have multi-cloud and hybrid cloud is scenarios that, then definitely you should have your content filtering, you have DNS security, we have a CASB as I said, then web DLP. Those are the solution technologies are in place. So you have to look into end to end. It is not only if I'm putting the EDR, I'm great. No, everything, whatever the technology controls you are putting in, it should be correlated and consolidated certain places. That is called your SIM. That is we call as a next generation like SIM. If you today talk about only detections, doesn't serve our purpose, right? At least whatever we can do is what we are doing is protections, then the detection, then we have your response as well should be there in place. That should be also appropriately on time and like it is not like after 10 hours or 10 minutes, if you do act upon your threats or the vulnerabilities, then it is already compromised to your system. So that should be instantly it should be come to the response and mitigate your risks. So that is where we should have your controls in place, and controls should be effective. It should not happen like, moral of the vehicle have a larger tank, fuel tank, but the mileage is not there, okay? So when you choose your solution or partners, you should think about it, how efficient it is, how it is, and which environment is it suitable for what. So it is not for everything will be suitable for all the organizations. And all controls may not be effective for all the scenarios. You have to get your use cases and put your control effectively so that we can get the efficient outcome of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Pradipta. Udit, same question over here, right? With respect to building cybersecurity controls, both from a point of view of protecting greenfield and retrofitted plants, right? What are your views and suggestions on the same?
So a little while ago I mentioned, we have plants which are aged and old, and we have greenfield, like you rightly said. So a good way or an approach, that's how we are attempting this, rather, or attending to it, is that we have a template created which will define what will be the network for my operations, which is manufacturing, or we call it a shop floor, and what will be the network for the non-operations area. And once this template is ready, we take that template to each and every plant. If it is a greenfield, it is just handed over to the projects team to construct it as it is. And in a brownfield or an aged plant is where we redraw all the parameters required basis of that template. Now, what is this template? A very short while ago, I mentioned to you, right, the example of having service lanes on expressways. Same is the concept in our template. We segregate the operations as well as the non-operations, or the IT, OT as the topic says, have them virtually segregated and meet at a common point. At that common point, have all the authentications, have all the checks, balances, as Pradipta pointed out. So the idea, the way to address this is plan it out well, spend more time in planning, finding all the use cases and the loopholes, and then going about implementing the solution. Now, to give you an example, most of the machines today, at least in our case and probably in our industry, are imported. Even the indigenous ones come with a remote console. So tomorrow I have a problem in, God forbid, we have a problem in the machine. I contact the manufacturer. He says, hook up that machine on the internet and give me a remote connection. I will troubleshoot it for you. Now, what does that mean? I am opening up the internet connection for that person to take it. I don't know where his engineer is. He may be in Japan, he may be in India, he may be anywhere. But I have to open that port for him, and that open port becomes an entry point for anybody who wants to play mischief, right? How do I secure that? Of course, there are solutions which, Pradipta and more Nitin will educate us on. However, when I open up that door, I can very well limit that opening of the door to a particular machine or to a particular area. So that is the segregation that I am talking about in an IT-OT convergence.
So divide and conquer, or divide and protect is your recommendation over here. See, finally, at the end of the day, one has to realize it's not a question of, if you will get breached or hacked. It is just a question of when. Given this particular reality, and my question will be in line from Nitin to Udit to Pradipta, right? That what are your views and suggestions, on the importance of having a damage control strategy whenever you get attacked?
And so I think, Raj, I'm going to pick up a lot of points where Udit was talking about isolation. I think when we were looking at this problem 5 years back, when we started solution building on when the real ransomware was coming in, right? One of the key feature was isolating your environment. Because key part is, if you keep it open, you keep it accessible, as Raj said, it will get attacked. It is only that when you would know, when did it get attacked. The second more important part was moving it into an immutable architecture. So if you ask me, when customers like you come to us and say, okay, I want to set up measures of how do I make sure my data is ready and accessible or recoverable from a zero-day attack, I think the three key part is to make it isolated, immutable, and intelligent. Because intelligence is not only going to tell you that is this data being compromised, but also looked upon saying what are the post-facto measures that you need to take to make sure how did you get compromised in the first place. So, and these are very solution-centric approaches that we're taking with a lot of our customers. More importantly, identifying your crown jewels. I think that becomes a key feature, and I think we were having a long chat on saying age-old infrastructure, next-generation platforms, endpoint devices, where is your data lying? And we're helping customers to say, okay, identify your crown jewels, make sure that you're putting it into an isolated environment, working with partners who are already in your systems to saying shielding these environments, keeping them right next, making sure that your data is based on an NIST framework to saying, okay, you're looking at responding, but you're also looking at recovering and protecting it. Because end of the day, when everything is compromised, the immediate action that you're going to go is go back to your backup platforms. And today, those are getting compromised the first. So somebody who's going to be intelligent is coming back to, okay, is he going to go back to his backup platform? Let me compromise that first. And there is a lot of debate that's happening. Tape is an isolated environment. But believe me, being in this industry, I've been saying that can be compromised very quick. We're trying to be one step ahead of, as we call them, hacktivists. But unfortunately, they're 2 steps ahead of us. They're not only exploiting your vulnerabilities, but they're trying to make sure that they're sitting in your data center with your data, with imported chips to lying, just allowing one port available in your device to come and sit there. So making sure that you're identifying your crown jewels, keeping it into the 3I concept, and building an architecture which is not available to everybody. And believe me, I can go on, and I know I see the timer on, but this is close to a 2-hour session that we do with our customers, saying, how can you build from saying, what devices do you implement, to what policies and procedures, and coming to saying that, okay, who has the access to that data? And I think the 3 Ps, the 3 Is getting together probably could make you resilient enough so that you could recover. And I'm again not saying that you are 100% going to be resilient and saying, okay, these measures are there, I'm going to be recovered. But at least the cycle that we saw, and I can speak about a lot of customers that I helped during this time, from a multi-week or a multi-month kind of an architecture to recover your crown jewels, we could at least come back to a week. You're back into your business, identifying your crown jewels that could get you back to business, and keeping them into an isolated, immutable, intelligent architecture could be one way of coming back to business. I think that is what we are helping a lot of customers build this in multiple sectors. So I think that is where I'm going to leave that thought with the panel.
Udit, your views on the same with respect to the damage control strategy.
Yeah. So like you rightly said, it's not a question of if you will be, or it is when you will be. And believe me, you need to have the bare basics in place. If at all, or when you are breached, what should be the first step that you need to take? He rightly mentioned, right? Look for backups. So the strategy should be twofold. One, minimize the downtime so that business goes on, life must go on, the show must go on. So the strategy needs to cater to the first point, that I need to get my business up and running, and B, look at what caused and try and isolate and remediate it. These are the two things that the strategy should contain, and there should be a clear-cut, I would say, I'm a fan of documentation, but not just printed documentation, but visual documentation. Because pictures
1,000 words.
say more than words, right? So there needs to be a documented plan of, if there is a breach, you detect a breach, step 1, 2, 3, follow this. That is a guideline. You may not follow it to the T, but that guideline needs to be there, and the focus of that guideline has to be business must go on, and I need to do an RCA and recover from this immediately and try and prevent it the next time. These are the two things that you always put into the strategy for recovery.
Thank you. And Pradipta, your views on the same.
I think great. I can take it point from the Nitin and Udit. Was rightly said, we should have the right incident management process. See, once incident is going to happen anytime, you never know, one of our, even the audience can say, cannot given the guarantee that, no, I'll not be, I'm all 100% safe, or all my systems are in place and I'm all 100% secure. Nobody can guarantee that, right? So on that perspective, you should have your incident management process in place. Who is going to do and what is the plan if something goes wrong? The way the response is, of course, the quarantine, or might be isolation is one. And second point is the data backup. What we do have the data backup. That we do always, the data backup in our stream, it is backed up, but we never tested or restored any point of time. Okay, so when you need that backup, the restore, the data is no more there. It is already corrupted. So that is one key point we can see. The backup is the same place again. If you are compromised, your network is compromised on the same subnet or same network, your backup is also compromised. So you need to ensure that your backup should have also right technology. That is, you should have ransomware protected, so that at least your backup is in safe, and you have to periodically restore, test it, then you can save. If the system itself goes off, or the location is completely off, then you should have the BCP. That means offsite you should have your backup system, or your data should be, or critical data should be in place, so that at least you can recover that data. Because today ransomware is not the small amount they are asking about. They are asking about million and trillion, $1 billion. Even though in USA recently one of the city been compromised, all utilities are stopped. They have to pay the ransomware amount. Ultimately, the FBI has took over again some partial of it. That is different story. But still, we are not in India. I have not seen much where we have to pay the ransomware, paying the ransomwares. But still, these 3 points I think we should work out. And also the recovery point where we should think about the cloud, where you can put into the cloud certain our critical data so that you can archival or might be something at the low cost storage, then we can recover some of your informations to your on-site if it is compromised. That is the response what we can think about. Thank you.
Thank you, Pradipta, Nitin, and Udit. Right. So the key takeaways that at least I took away from this panel was, one was this whole idea of, well, one has to select one's crown jewels to protect as far as your infrastructure is concerned within an IT/OT framework. Second one being the 3I concept, which Nitin, I believe you brought into the conversation. That was the isolate, immutable, and the intelligent architecture that you set up, both from a security and a recoverability point of view, right? Udit, I take away your very apt example of the bullock cart on the highway, right? Of having separate lanes for your IT and OT with conversion points that are well managed and controlled, right? The templatized system or approach to security, and of course having visual renditions of a recovery guideline, because yeah, like all of us, we read like comic books, but we never read the manual, right? Those are realities that can only come in from a practitioner, a battle-hardened one at that. And Pradipta, on your...
I would like to add 2 more things to that.
Sure.
You should also have a very solid communication plan.
Yeah.
Because whenever you are in an incident, when you are facing a breach, you need to follow a planned communication plan as well.
Yeah.
It's not that you keep saying one thing to someone and the other thing, because if you are a listed entity, you will have regulations and guidelines to follow from a plethora of regulators. You will have a lot of stakeholders that you need to give an answer to, internal and external. So this is where even a well-documented and crafted communication plan has to play a very important role. And the last is education.
I'm completely with you on that. Getting ready for a DR is like commando training. Years of structured training and a few minutes of chaos when the actual mission happens. And Pradipta, coming to you, the takeaway from me, at least from this particular panel, was in the area of setting up ransomware protected backups, and more importantly, being a practitioner of doing recovery on a regular basis. This also came in from the fact that one of the first things that a malicious operator will do is identify your backups and corrupt them or destroy them. So the health of your backups then tends to be a leading indicator of the music that you're going to face very soon, right? And of course, the whole idea of having a proper incident management process that came out from multiple of our panelists out here, and setting up a structured, identity and access management and other protocols in place to ensure that there is a method to the setup that is there. With that, before we close the panel, I open up for any questions that you all might want to ask to the panelists. Can I have a mic circulated in the audience? Anybody who has questions, please raise your hand so that the relevant representative can identify you all. So I'm sure you all are hungry. It's just that I have to figure out whether it's for information or for the goodies that are outside. Yes, sir. Can someone have a
lunch?
Yeah, we are between the lunch.
Please do introduce yourself. Yeah, thank you.
I'm Shirish Chaitanya from Polygon India Private Limited, Pune. Rightly said that backups should be there, standardized backups should be there, and we are having the incremental backups on a periodic basis. I want to ask, what is the standard guideline to keep the backups on the incremental basis? Because you are keeping the 1 week backup or 1 day backup. When it gets incremented, automatically the corrupted data will also get the backup. I want to standardize what is the industry standard.
I'll take it on that. Okay. the way we can take the backup, it depends upon your criticality of the data. Okay, if it is a core system, definitely you should take it your incremental. Definitely it is a 1 day, like, again, like, real-time backups. Then you have your differential backups. Then you can have your daily, weekly, monthly, then you have quarterly, then you have yearly. So that is where you can have your backups in place. And if you talk about when, what, and all those, that schedule that you have integrity of those, that we can take it up in your system, and how we can, what is your size of the data, or what is the core system data total you want to take it backup. So you can plan accordingly. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to have a go at it?
I think, more importantly, again, I'll say, it's identifying and deciding what do you want to back up first, because that's where it will start. Putting a full backup, incremental, differential, CDP will again decide how crucial that data is. Now, and how much do you want to lose when there is a ransomware attack? And here, I'm not addressing from an operational recovery, but when it comes to your zero-day attacks, what is the loss that you are ready to take as an organization? Is your decision factor on what data do you want to keep? And I think with a lot of customers, this is one debate that we've been having. Is email the most important communication mechanism in your environment? And should you have all your emails being protected? Now, the terabytes and the zettabytes of data that you're going to be consuming, and the oldest employee in your organization having so many terabytes of data, believe me, that's not something that you want to put it under full backups ever, right? I want to have just latest copy of communication available. But from a core billing perspective, your regulator perspective, is it going to be important that the regulator is going to be at your door and he's going to charge you a hefty fee if that data is not available? I think that is an identification mechanism that you should follow when backups come into picture. And this is something that we've been consulting a lot of customers. Importance of backup is the importance of recovery, and what is the impact of that data that is going to come to you.
Thank you very much.
Any last question before we conclude the panel? Yes, sir, there's a gentleman over there. Please identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Ashutosh Joshi, and I am from a company called Rocket, based in Mumbai. My question is about the education of our friends in manufacturing side. Many times when machine stops, there is a gun on your head that production has stopped, do something urgently, and then we go for a process of opening the ports and whatever security processes, and then you always have a pressure. Or second is someone just gets some machine or some connection and plugs it into the network and starts complaining, oh, why you guys are blocking the accesses and all. So how you see the education of our counterparts in manufacturing side in terms of cyber security?
Udit, would you like to have a go at it?
Sure. So, education on cyber security is something which is a repetitive task, let me tell you. Repetitive because it keeps evolving, and you are going to have iteration as well. So the same person who attended it 3 months ago may not be there. You might have a new person. So education is one, physically conducting workshops, giving examples of what can be the consequences of a breach, etc. That's one form of education. That's the classroom education. And your second point was, there is chaos, machine has stopped, give access, etc. Again, for this, there has to be a meaningful discussion with operations and technology functions where a process has to be documented. I know this sounds very bookish and text, etc., whatever, but all this needs to be done when there is no incident, when the machine is not broken down. That is the time when everybody is happy. And that is the time when you lay the guidelines saying that if, God forbid, tomorrow this machine breaks down, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, do this, do this, do this, do this, and we will have SLAs for that. So the moment you inform somebody via, if you are following an ITSM process or if you have a asset management process in place, It will auto raise a ticket or someone raises a ticket. Within 10-15 minutes, we will follow whatever are our guidelines and we'll make the access to you. Rather than you picking up the intercom or phone and dialing to people, etc., and shouting or writing emails, best is to document a process when the times are happy, not when you are facing an incident. That is the best, and regularly have a cup of tea with everybody on the shop floor, as I told you.
Yeah, add on to Udit, one point is, yeah, of course, the training and cybersecurity training and awareness is always important, and where we need to have today, if you see, like, human, the weakest link is mostly the human being. Like, wherever it's the employees, insider is more attackers than like, external attackers. So we need to have more awareness and training, the way repeatedly training, and at least like, face-to-face training kind of scenario, and you can give a lot of examples, what I've given certain examples like, impacts. It's a huge impact, like, the small one port, as Nitin and Udit said also, like, one small port open, it is collapse everything. It is not like, one window is open to like, to enter your house. Same thing. It is a door might be strong, but your window is not there, so it is gone. So that is where it is. Small port can compromise everything for your systems.
So thank you, Nitin, Udit, and Pradipta
Thank you,
for giving your insights. I'm sure a number of you all have questions. I would request you all to take it offline because I have run out of time, and my MC is very candidly come up to remind me of the same. So please take it up offline with the panel. Thank you for your understanding. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Nice talk.
Fantastic. A big round of applause for all our leaders. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.